Welcome to Tea Time with Talent Acquisition, the podcast aimed at fostering knowledge and sharing stories within the vibrant talent acquisition community. I'm your host, Eden, and for the next hour or so, I'm going to be joined by a true specialist in our field. Having dedicated more than 10 years honing his experience, he significantly contributed to the success of various teams, working both internal and external. And now within an organization, he's had an enthusiasm for employer branding, especially when it comes to achieving remarkable outcomes without a particular budget. I can't wait to delve into his conversation and cover insights from someone who's generated over 1 million impressions on their social media and helped significantly boost company reach, all without investing any financial resources. So when you're ready, grab your favorite tea or coffee if you prefer, and join me in welcoming today's guest, the Principal Talent Acquisition Partner, Sean Kennedy. So thanks for joining.
Thanks very much for having me. Been a fan of the first few episodes of the podcast, so looking forward to getting stuck in.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, it's very nice words to hear back, but I'm super keen to get diving into the employer branding aspect. Before we do so, let's call it the teaser question, as it were. Everybody gets the same question in the series, so I'm curious to hear from your perspective. 2024, what do you think the biggest struggle we as talent acquisition teams are going to face this year?
I think the market's gonna turn, and I think there's going to be an increase of either job changes or flexibility changes. So I think the biggest face-off is going to be people that offer the right flexibility will be the winners of the year. People who fall behind will lose out on good talent.
So do you think there's actually going to be a shift in growth, or do you just think there's going to be a shift in mentality towards how we're working?
I think the mentality towards how we're working, I've started to see already there's been a big shift in like folks back to the office, and certain days a week, losing out on certain flexibility and where they have to be. That particular flexibility is like number one. We did a study not too long ago over only like 200 people, but it's enough to get like a good basis off that the number one thing that people were looking for when they were looking for a new job was flexibility, not even before salary. And it was like unanimous.
Yeah, that seems to be the one that we're coming across as well. There's one organization, brilliant organization, but require 4 days on site, guaranteed. It's the non-negotiable they have, and it's the biggest blocker they have. Salary matches perfectly, the opportunity is unparalleled, but people want to either work when they choose to work in the office or have the option to work overseas for a period of time, especially for people who are expats. You don't have to use your holiday
100%.
then. So I'm curious. I'm going to circle back to these, what you've shared and what the others have shared this season. I'm going to circle back at the end of the year to see, okay, what was the biggest challenge, and probably ask you again, was it that? But appreciate obviously that one. I mean, the topic of today is about employer branding. We've covered this with a guy called Andreas, where he kind of alluded to the process of how you should start employer branding when you don't have a budget. And yours kind of organically follows on with somebody who has taken it actually the step further, has seen the outcomes, the successful outcomes of doing pretty much what Andreas kind of set out. And now you've actually taken what he's shared and obviously what you do in yourself and kind of ran with it. So I'm curious, before we kind of get into the nitty gritty process and what you've actually done, tell me, what does employer branding specifically mean to you?
To me, it means the reputation externally and internally of your business. So employer brand reaches people outside your business, and it's the reputation that your people have about your company as well. Like they'll actually work there. Are they proud to go to work? Are they? Do they love where they work? Do they fear Monday when they're sat at home on a Sunday? Or and it's for an external reason. Its employer brand is, what do people think? Can you get people to imagine themselves working with your company, or working for, or like being a partner of your company? So for me, it's the reputation of the organization and the story that comes with it.
So why is it important? I mean, everyone, I guess, would sit there and say, okay, well, that's quite obvious, right? That's, and by the way, it's not a bad thing being obvious what employer branding is, but why is it important to focus on it? Why should we be looking at, regardless of having a budget or not?
Absolutely. So there's so many more factors that delve into this as well. So let's think about like internally. if people are more engaged where they work and they're proud where they work, retention levels decrease, right? So you're going to have to stop worrying about like people leaving because that does happen. People leave. It's
Mm,
fine. It's just one of those things.
part
But
of life.
you want to, yeah, part of life, right? The recruitment industry wouldn't have been formed if people didn't leave. So,
That is true.
um, it's always good to have a good, but you can retain your good people, and the good people that want to stay and want to be part of an organization like that. Retaining top talent is it's perfect for, because I've been in organisations where I really, really love the mission, and especially with like Bench as an example, I love what they do. I feel very proud to work there because it enhances the speed it takes for drugs to reach patients. So from bench to bedside, hence the name Benchside.
Like
Um,
it.
and yeah, that's brilliant. I was like, why are we called Benchside when I first joined? And I was taught that. So yeah, for like, and then externally as well, like it doesn't just come from a recruitment perspective. A recruitment perspective is, people know you, people buy from people, and I don't just mean from a company page. I mean like if you're a individual, which I think is the best way to do it, you're 16 times more likely to actually interact with someone if you're doing it from your personal page or like using like some form of employee generated content. And people want to see how people are responding to the company. So if I was to go and look for a new job now, my biggest thing would be I'd go and look on LinkedIn, I'd search the name and I'd search the posts. Who's talking about their company and who's talking about positively about it, If there's no comments really, like for me, it's a bit of a red flag. I'd be like, oh, okay, well, no one's really excited to work there. Um, and it's a nice way of getting people to imagine themselves working there. On top of that, from another perspective, it gives you a reputation outside of the organization to be like for your customers to see, like your investors to see, potential investors, sorry, and like board members, all that kind of stuff. So it opens up so many more areas for folks to benefit from, really.
Creates a buzz, I find,
Mm,
from it's just that constant communication around it. And I've noticed it just with this podcast, right? If I use this as the example, it's an employer branding aspect, and obviously a community-led project. But this post, whenever it goes up on LinkedIn, it's always the highest performing post that I share that week, without a shadow of a doubt. And I could take the exact same content that you tell me today. I can take your picture out of it, and I can say it myself. Sorry. But by the way, you will be in the video. Don't worry. This is your words. But hypothetically, right? I could
yeah.
take you out of it. I could share it myself on a video, or I can write it. But people buy into people. You're absolutely right. They see me,
Yep.
they're more likely to respond to me. But yeah, I totally agree. I think it's so important to consistently do it as well. Employer branding is I mean, it's not a one and done sort of thing, which we'll get onto, kind of how you approach this. We mentioned LinkedIn. So what specific channels, are you using for marketing or have been using for marketing with the team?
Me personally, I only use LinkedIn. Like even in my like personal life, I don't really use social media that much. Like I only really use LinkedIn for work, for this, and I see it. It is work, I enjoy it, but it is part of the job.
Yeah.
LinkedIn is such a good tool to use because, in comparison to, let's use another platform for example. Let's use Instagram. If I've got 100 followers on Instagram, typically speaking, if I've got like the normal settings on there, like 100 people are going to see that at best,
Mhm.
right? At very best. However, on LinkedIn, if I share something and someone likes it, their followers can see then who's liked it, and then back and forth. It's such a snowball effect platform that if you're using it correctly and you're engaging with people and people are engaging with your content, so many more people are going to see it. Like when we look at impressions, which we've spoken about before, like that's the biggest thing to see. Like we started at the start of this call, over 1 million people in the last year had seen my posts and seen what I'd
Yeah.
put out. I was well happy about that.
No, it's incredible. You should be so
Yeah,
happy about it. I mean, genuinely, it's incredible.
thank you very much. But one of the biggest things about this platform as well that's so underutilized is so that I think there's over like 1 billion users now on LinkedIn or something like that. But there's only like 250 to 300 million active users, and only 1% of those are actually posting, which is absolutely, it's nuts,
Wow.
right? So by already posting, you're ahead of you're by just engaging in like using content or like creating your own kind of brand and telling a story, you're already setting yourself apart from everyone else. So people don't want to see the what looks like an ad from a company page, because if you go on, like, if you were to click on LinkedIn right now and click on the homepage, the first thing you're going to see is a personal post, an advert, personal post, advert, and please check.
I'm gonna do it. I'm doing
Do
it.
it. You'll see. And if I'm wrong, I'll eat my hat.
Get a hat out ready. Okay, so I've got a personal post. So you're saying personal post and advert straight after? How we
Pretty
doing? So I've
much,
got personal
yeah.
post, personal post, personal post, personal post, personal post. I mean, there's no company posts, though. I can tell
No,
you that. They're all.
I'll see. Look, if I go on mine, it's
Maybe you're
personal
being
advert.
targeted way more than I am for adverts. I've
Maybe.
still got none. I'm scrolling. But I get your point. You know, the
Yeah.
personal side of things is. I mean, I see no company posts for it. I mean, actually, okay, I got my first company post, and that's about 20 posts down. And the company also has
Oh,
200,000 followers, so it's
okay.
a pretty big company.
Yeah.
To be fair, I mean, I had a pretty deep chat with our account manager at LinkedIn,
Mm,
and this kind of comes on job adverts, and I know it all interlinks because they always try and push job adverts to us and
yeah.
say, like, it's the best way to build your brand. Categorically, if
If you
you
see an
need a
advert, you're
job
going to scroll straight
advert,
past it.
no, so I'm talking about the actual job adverts, like you want to hire a full stack developer, that
Right, right,
advert,
right.
not the snippet on the feed. But yeah, you're right. I never click on the feed
Yeah.
adverts,
Why would you?
because it exactly. I mean, I also get one coming up from Volkswagen and Shell, and it's like, well, I know who you are.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, you're not selling anything new to me. I know who you are as companies. Um, but so on the job adverts, they say obviously it helps build your company profile, the followers, which is in theory okay. But if you take what I post on our company page, 100, 200 impressions, which is ridiculously low,
Hmm.
versus what I would post the same content on a personal 20, 25,000 impression,
Yeah.
which is a stark difference. So just to circle back to what you're saying about your personal stuff, I've seen it firsthand and queried it to the team. They're like, "Oh no, every follower should see your company post." I'm like, "But that the algorithms literally do not work for them."
Yeah.
Fact.
Absolutely. And it's so true. Like you can post stuff on a personal on a company page, and yeah, you probably get like a bit of engagement on it, but nowhere near as much as you would as an individual.
Mm.
Um, and the best thing is, the more you're interacting with newer people that are joining your network and like for across your network, the algorithm then, and LinkedIn as a platform, encourages those people to see your posts as well.
Yeah.
Like, so it's fantastic. It's a fantastically engaging platform. Like, if that's the kind of thing you want to do, like if you want to attract candidates as zero cost, all you've got to do is, I put it very simplistically, like all you got to do is put some stuff on LinkedIn. Like, all you got to do is tell a story of what you do, how you do it, and what benefits you got. Great, fantastic. There's obviously a bit more to it than that, but like,
Well, I hope so, because otherwise that's the end of the podcast.
yeah, yeah. Anyway, nice. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Yeah, thanks for joining. No, we'll go on to kind of how do we go about and build those stories. But there is one point,
Mhm.
I think I mentioned it to you, and hopefully I'm not repeating from the previous episode, but let's see. On LinkedIn, I do know that, and if anyone who's not listening, your whole network doesn't see it at one time, and they've changed the algorithms quite dramatically for this. So you can, you can Google and people will show you this, but we're listening here, so we might as well talk about it. So it will release it to literally like less than 10% of your followers. That's who'll first see the post. And if there's
Mhm.
good engagement quickly in the first couple of hours, and when we talk about engagement, people, it's not just likes, but people are commenting outside of your organization, so not just people inside, then they'll open it up to like another 10%. And again, it will track who's responded in a timely period until like 60, 70, 80% of your network have seen it. If it performs poorly in the beginning, nobody else is going to see it. So when you post, when people sit and say, well, I don't know why this one performed better than this one, it's probably because people just weren't engaging quick enough for that to be released to more people.
Yeah,
But when you create, I'm bleeding into what we're going to talk about, stories, if you can create good hooks that get people talking, that's not just the same people in your organization, that's when that's when it starts to get, loosely use the word viral, unless it genuinely does end up going viral. But you know what I mean? They're viral for
Yeah,
what we need it to be.
yeah.
Which I thought was really interesting, because again, it's not something that LinkedIn tell you, and they never advertise something like that. But yeah, it's and also don't comment on your post first, which I do all the time, because I always put
I
links in there.
did that quite a lot. I used to put my I used to make so many like little things that I shouldn't have done. Like I would post twice a day for like a really long period of
Yeah,
time.
big no on that one.
Big
Yeah,
no, yeah, absolutely. And I'd comment on my own. I'm happy to say I've never liked my own post.
no, I haven't either. I haven't gone
Yeah,
that far, not yet.
I haven't gone that far yet. I've not been that desperate just yet. um, but yeah, I mean, there's so many better ways that we talk about, like connecting points to people. Like if you can create
Yeah,
something that's particularly engaging, and the way you do that is creating points that particularly connect with people. So like, I think when we first spoke, I spoke to you about me being a dad. I potentially reach a lot of parents because I talk about the benefits of where I work and how it affects me as a parent, how it affects my family, how it affects the time I spend with my kids. And I always kind of link the story back to where I work, who I am, and what I do. And I do it in a way that, I want people to think about when they read that story, how they would feel if they were working at Benchside. And if you're getting people to think about that, like what it'd be like to work at your company, you're already engaging, you're already connecting with them on certain points. And
yeah.
there's the top points that I think like for people to start talking about. I don't know if I'm jumping ahead here,
No,
but
no, no. You've led on quite nicely. It's all
oh,
good.
nice, cool, good. So the best things that I think, and this is just my own opinion, but it's worked well for me. Everything works well differently for everyone, but it's your benefits. So
Mhm.
how do your benefits affect you? Your culture. What different cultures? What culture is your company? What culture does your company have? What different cultures are there within your organization? Flexibility, like we just spoke about earlier, it's the number one kind of thing people want to hear about. We're a remote first company, so the moment I mentioned we're remote, people are like, yeah, brilliant, fantastic. And your company, your product, and most importantly, over everything, talk about yourself, who you are. People want to engage with people, not like we talk about. This is exactly what we just said about earlier, that people will engage with a personal post more than they will your company page. So naturally, why not create your own kind of company page for your own posts? You're the company yourself, and I think if you start talking about those kind of aspects and connecting them to people, you can do that. Now, people say like, "Oh, what if I run out of ideas?"
Mhm.
Okay, right. How many people are in your organization? So you'd be like, but for me, 400. Great. I've got 400 stories to tell. I've got 400 technically recruiters in my eyes, and I'd always kind of say like, however many people are in your organization, that's how many recruiters you have, because
Oh, I like that.
yeah,
I
it's
like
good,
that
isn't
a
it?
lot. I mean,
Uh,
it's not a good sell for me, because I'm going to go to a company and say you've got 1,000 recruiters. You don't need me. But I like the phrase though.
yeah, it's great if you're like internal like me.
Yeah.
Um, so, and yeah, like one of the best part is that we talk about like connecting points with these different things as well. So like I can talk about like being a dad and like my kind of experiences that are realistically only going to relate to certain people, right?
Mhm.
And when we talk about the culture piece, then we can go and speak to like, you got me, Sean, in TA, or you can speak to like our female colleagues in engineering. That's brilliant. That's a great story to tell because then it resonates with female engineers looking for work. And female engineers is in the tech industry, we need to do a lot better there. And
Yeah.
if we can relate to people in that story, I think the whole organization, the whole industry as a whole could do better. I'm not just saying that our company, um, everyone could do better because it's like it's gone down a little bit or gone up a little bit, depending on where you look at it. But like it's like 80% guys and
Mm.
20% women. It's like literally the 80-20 rule, and it's getting better, but it needs to work. And the way you do that is by appealing to people of a certain group. And I think that's one of the best things I can recommend, is that people start talking, as people start using those different topics to talk about and tell their own story and tell different stories of other people as well.
So we basically go through the organization and work out who can talk about what, how can they
Hmm.
present, benefits, culture, flexibility, product, and then bring their own self into the conversation. And obviously,
Pretty
you said
much.
there are 400 people in your current team, so you've got 400 stories, potentially even more, because if someone wants to talk about flexibility and then another one about culture, this is where it starts multiplying, and
Exactly.
ideas don't ultimately end. And you've got new employees joining all the time, potentially, and there's so much more we can get to. So we can marry up people to connecting points, but how do we actually present this? We've got all these ideas flowing, but do we do it in articles? Do we do it in videos? Do we do it in webinars? And then, because then it's in how do we take it from idea to actually something out on LinkedIn, on our website, wherever, where
Yeah.
people can actually engage with.
I think the first and most important thing is to choose a platform. Choose a platform you're comfortable with, you know stuff about. I've been a recruiter for over 10 years. LinkedIn is like a second home. So it's the platform I chose because I know it the best.
I've had my LinkedIn longer than I've owned my home. Yeah, so
Really?
it is my home. Yeah.
I don't know how long I've had my LinkedIn, but I think it's a fair old while. Um, and So yeah, you pick a platform, choose what you're going
Yep.
to do, and then I would say experiment. Like, experiment with how you construct a story. Like, obviously, you want to. The first couple of lines of classic storytelling are an engaging, header, to pull people in. The bulk of it, a nice little story. It's just nice, easy kind of going thing. You don't want to have War and Peace on posts, because no
Mm.
one wants to be spending their time reading like a whole article just to look at a photo. But like, experiment with videos, pictures, links, how you can connect a story to you, like how you tell a story. And then I would say what you see working best for you. Like, we talked about impressions earlier. For me, I know that like pictures, a short blurb at top works for me, and telling a tiny story. People don't want to hear too much from me, apparently. People don't want to hear me talk too or write too much. So I shorten it down, and I have a picture, and I use a picture to articulate my story. Or, if I'm feeling a bit fresh on a Friday, I'll use a GIF, a GIF. I don't know how to say it. GIF or GIF?
I'm going with GIF.
A GIF. Yeah, right, it's a GIF.
We have a fight in the comments now who if it's
Yeah,
GIF
yeah.
or GIF.
Is it GIF or GIF? So yeah, I think it's just all about experimentation first. Like I said to you before, when I first started, I was posting twice a day, and I was posting all these like long articles about like
Mm.
what's going on in the pharma world. Realistically, I'm nothing to do with the pharma world. I'm not a scientist. I'm not like an engineer. Like, why would I be talking about the pharma world? It's ridiculous.
I
So,
had this realization the other day, right? So I love the fact you just said this. So I do a lot in the green tech space and
mm,
sustainability. But I think it was maybe like 2, 3 months ago, I was sitting there thinking every Monday I'm going to post news in green tech and sustainability. And then after a couple of weeks, no one was engaged. I was sitting there thinking, obviously they're not engaging with me. I'm a recruiter in that space. I'm not. What I know is recruitment. What I know is hiring. What I know is this stuff. Hence why we double down on the bits that we know
exactly.
and leave the scientific side of things, leave the nitty gritty to the specialists and, reshare, but you don't need to rehash in your own words.
Yeah,
It was an eye opener because I thought I was onto a winner and then realized actually I was onto a stinker there a little bit.
I did the exact same thing. To be honest with you,
Yeah, trial
but
and error.
it is trial and error, and so I was doing it like twice a day, posting, and I was trying to figure out like what was working. Like we said, big no, and I was posting every single day, twice a day, and then I started going every single day, and then I started going down to like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, which I typically do
Mhm.
now, similar
Mhm.
times. And I know they say like times don't really matter, but I
To be fair, if you're planned, and
yeah.
my literally Monday, Wednesday, Friday, can you get out my plan, please? I feel like you're copying me. Uh, 12:30 Monday, 12:30 Wednesday,
Oh,
12:30
I'm a 9 o'clock guy.
Friday.
Nine
You're at
o'clock,
9
and I'm
o'clock, 9
9
a.m. You're
o'clock.
trying to catch me in the morning.
I'm trying to catch those early commuters, when they get into the
Yeah,
office,
yeah.
they want to read something and,
My thought process is lunch. You're sitting there, you're having your sandwich, and you're just having a little scroll.
yeah,
That's why I'm trying to catch you.
I get that. It's a good tactic, to be fair. I think either way, you're going to get
I feel
someone
like
on.
you've got a million impressions, so I feel like I might need to switch mine up now.
But it works for me, but, like I can't share like that kind of stuff. So I share like exactly like what you're doing. Like I share stuff about what's going on within our company that affects me and affects our people,
Mm.
and would make it like engaging, like to work here. And that you'll see from like posts and stuff. Like I encourage anyone to go and look at some of the posts I've done and see like I've used my kids a lot to like probably those help with impressions. They're cute kids, right? But I've spoken about like our days off in summer. So we have like every other Friday off in July and August, which is really cool. Like when you want to when you'd want some days off, right? And what I talk about is what really simple, really straightforward, but it's authentic because it comes from me and it's the truth. And so that's what I'm talking about. Like stuff that's authentic will get the most further reach. And all I talk about is what me and my kids did. And so look,
Yeah.
we went kayaking on a lake near us, and it was great. Sun was beating down, and we had ice creams afterwards. Like just really simple stuff. Like I got to do that because I had this benefit from Bentside,
Yeah.
and it connects it
So
back
you're
to
linking it back to the company.
so
Nice.
it's fluff piece and then Bentside, and then like a cool photo of me and the kids like having a laugh on the lake. Right. So like for me that works well, and because my colleagues
Subtle. That's the thing.
subtle but it's authentic as well because it is just
Yeah.
me doing what I was doing, and I talk about it. And what's great about that is the people you work with are doing the similar things, so they'll probably like it. If you don't like a photo of someone with his kids, you're a monster. I'm sorry.
Or dogs.
Or dogs.
Dogs
Monsters are,
perform exceptionally well on LinkedIn. I've
yeah,
noticed that
dogs
one.
do really well. I've got a friend of mine, Chris, who's the biggest dog lover in the world. All his content is him and his dog. It's just, and
Chris, a recruiter as well.
he works at Mars.
Ooh.
He's the marketing leader at
Let's get
Mars.
Chris on the show. Let's
Yeah,
get the dogs into the shop.
his
Chris,
dog
if
will
you're
probably
listening,
be
hit me
in.
up.
Yeah. And but yeah, like that kind of stuff is well because that's Chris. He's
Yeah.
like a dog owner. He'll relate to pets.
Those
Pet
the dog
owners.
owners.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, and it's just those kind of connecting points that relate you to other people, rather than I wouldn't relate to someone if I said, "Here's what's going on in the pharmaceutical world this week." Shut up, Sean.
It's it is a really good way to kind of think logically about what are we doing with our content
Mm.
from a recruitment perspective. Because what you said at the beginning is you're so right. People get to that kind of paralysis moment of, okay, I'm in charge of doing employer branding, or I'm not in charge, but I want to do it, and no one's doing it, so I'm going to do it.
Mm.
What do I do? And it's like, oh, then they have like this moment of like, what are we trying to present? And examples, my side, I went completely down the educational route, community stuff, guides, and like I've done all that stuff, and that's now there. But we're so far that way that people forget who we are as people. So we're kind of peeling it back that way. And I find employer branding is always it's just a moving target all the time. You're never going to get it 100% right. And when you think you've got it right, the algorithms change and you got it wrong again. And you have to, try and error and see what works again.
Yeah.
I have noticed, and this is from personal experience as well, that getting buy-in from people inside the organization can be challenging. So how are you able to engage the wider organization to support you in this initiative? Like, are we incentivizing them for contributions? Are we putting out an appeal to say who wants their help? I'll give you a Mars bar. Again, no idea why I've got Mars in my head now.
Yeah.
Like, what's kind of the process to do that? Because a lot of people are camera shy. A lot of people don't have time. How do we kind of get past those barriers?
Absolutely. You're never going to get away from like this, the introvert and extrovert kind of thing, right? Some people don't want to be on camera. Like me, I'm an extrovert, as you probably guessed. I don't care about if there's any attention coming my way. But there's other people who just really don't like it. And there's different ways you can share your story and different ways you can speak to them and get them to engage. If you are posting a lot, though, don't expect every single person to like every single one of your posts or like anything like that. because it's a bit much to ask. But like to get people involved in that kind of stuff or get buy-in from people, just ask. There's certain you're going to end up speaking to people across your organization, but I would specifically say, like, for me, I recruit a lot in science and engineering. So, I'll ask my colleagues in science and engineering, just the ones I'm speaking to at the time, be like, hey, by the way, look, if I've got some content coming out, can I use you for it? And use you for it, such an ugly way to say it, isn't it? But can I work with you to create some content that will draw people into this kind of world and this kind of stuff, and tell a story about you and what you're doing? And typically people are excited, and people want to do that, but there are some people who are like, no thanks. You just got to respect it. Like,
Is that a conversation you're having over the phone? So you're remote. Are you doing it over the phone, or are you emailing them that request?
oh, I'm like this. I'm like, I was like, I'm on a video call with them. Like, we're so video centric. We're so video call centric at Benchside. Like, we even do these things called donuts. They're like random 15-minute calls that get scheduled into your calendar, like with random people across the organization. They're quite funny because, like, you just meet someone from, like, I'll meet someone based in Canada that I've never met before in my life. They're like, hey, how are you? I saw
Now
your
you can
stuff
get
on
them involved with the
LinkedIn.
marketing initiatives. There you go.
Yeah. But that's one of the things about this is, like, marketing. When you work in a people organization like myself, I work in talent acquisition. Marketing needs are pretty important, but when you also compare that with working in a startup, the biggest value add you can have is trying to find like a cost-free way of doing this stuff. And if you can do like rough ready kind of content to draw people in and engage with people, you'll add in so much value to your organization. Like, if you don't mind me asking, like, Riverside that we recording this platform on, is that a free platform, or is that like
No, so I pay £180 a year for this,
okay,
and that's 5 hours a month of recording. So
that's
it's a pretty decent amount, and I mean we
that's a good
record
amount.
4 to 5 episodes per month, and then we also, if we have a webinar, we'll record it on here and then
Nice.
reduce the amount that we do on the podcast. But yeah, I can dip in, I can record. I don't actually use this for any recording for our other videos. We use our phones for that.
Yeah.
And there is actually an app. Let me find out what it's called. If it's come back to like the cost-free side, there's an app called Teleprompter. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
why I don't remember that. So I put all of my words on that, and basically it comes up on the screen like a teleprompter on my phone. And then there's one called Captions, which is free if you conniving like me and can snip the top and bottom and screen record on your phone, which we all can. So I would recommend it. You don't need to buy it. And that creates, auto AI generated captions onto your screen that are like engaging. It can zoom in onto your face at a certain point. So that's completely free. Whack it into Canva, which is also free.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got teleprompter captions in Canva, and all you then need is yourself as the model or the somebody in your team, and you can, as you say, put together things that aren't going to break the bank, because all it's costing you is the time. And once you get
Yeah.
templates created, then time it goes, well, you can get through it pretty quickly.
Get through it so quickly. It's a little bit of a time investment to begin with, like you say, but like, if you look at the return of investment on it, you're spending nothing, and all you're getting is a load of people come and like more applications. We've had so much more applications since we've started kind of posting, like, from our employee generated stuff, and then you get so much brand awareness. Like, I had quite an interesting one. I was speaking to a colleague of mine who's based in Canada, and their friend who was looking to apply to a role said, "Hey, I saw your colleague Sean's post talking about like the remote working, so I thought I'd apply. Can you refer me in?" I was like, "That's wild that someone in like down in like Vancouver, which is 8 hours difference. I know like times doesn't really play an effect on LinkedIn really when you're posting, but I thought it was so weird that there was someone from another group, or like from another, like someone I've never even met or connected with, saw that kind of post, and that just goes to prove like how that can work."
Yeah, definitely. And I think, like I said, come back to the idea of it being cost effective.
Mm.
The only thing really it's going to cost you is time. And the easiest way to work that is work out what your hourly rate is going to be, minus holidays, minus like bank holidays, etc.
Yeah.
And then go to your manager and say, look, I want to invest 2 hours a week, for example. It's going to cost the company 90 quid a week for me to trial this. That is the cost. I know we're saying without pennies, but to get it up on LinkedIn, it's going to cost less. And that's just doing 2 hours of, say, creating content, but you can quite easily just write for 15 minutes yourself, and that's where it's costing pennies.
Most of mine is just literally, like write for 15 minutes, like in on a. I'll be honest with you, I'm quite bad. Like I shouldn't do this, but like on a Sunday, I'll just be sat on the sofa and I'll be thinking about some of the ideas I want to put out for the week. And this is in the evening. Kids have gone to bed. Wife's gone to bed, and I'm sat there watching the series. Right, do you know what? Okay, cool. I'll create some stuff now, and it's done for the week.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend that because Sunday should be no work. But like, if you're up early, or you've got some time on your lunch, or whatever, you've got some time free, like you say, free time from your manager. Great, do it. I just know it works well for me.
Yeah. My colleague, he batch does posts, so he'll use a platform. I think Hootsuite. I think off the top of my head, I have to double
Yeah,
check. But
yeah.
you can
Who's
schedule
one?
posts.
Yeah,
Yeah. So he'll
LinkedIn.
basically.
LinkedIn has scheduled post function now as
Yeah,
well.
they've got that in there. Yeah, I don't know if he's tried it yet. Was gonna the old classic A/B test to see what engagement works better. But I know with Hootsuite, he would spend say like 2 hours and he'll batch a month's worth of posts ready, so he hasn't then got to think about it. The only
Nice.
problem with Hootsuite, and if anybody does use it, and if you do know a workaround, please let me know. When you put in links, it doesn't always work very well because again, come back to LinkedIn's algorithms. I nerd out so much around LinkedIn algorithms, clearly, because I know so much about them now.
Yeah,
If you attach a link, so say one of your posts, you didn't use a picture, you linked to the company's website, it will perform less than
yeah.
if you put a picture,
True.
because LinkedIn want to keep you on LinkedIn. So anything that pushes a link out of the platform, they deprioritize that and release it to less people. So again, come back to Hootsuite, just be mindful if you're putting links in. But yeah, like you can batch load posts and be ready for it, and then forget about it for a month.
Yeah, to be fair, I do. I'll avoid the link I'll put in as if I'm linking it to an event on LinkedIn. Like
Yeah.
I'll put one up today about a webinar we're doing, and I'll put a link to the link, and I don't know if even that I think might have an effect. I just think like your links in general are again another no.
Well, that's why I put the links in the comments. So any podcast, any webinar, any
Mm-hmm.
article, I always check the link in the comments and it's there. But yeah, I mean, it's the algorithms.
Okay.
So we know what we're doing. We know how we're producing it. We're putting it out there. But the biggest factor in any marketing initiative is the return on investment. I know you said, the ROI is going to be big, but how can we really determine what marketing was successful or not, and where did it lead to? What are you tracking from your experience?
Yeah, so I'm using we've got an ATS. I track through the ATS what comes through. So who's applied from LinkedIn, and
Mhm.
I'm not sure if I can say numbers, so I probably won't. But there's been a significant increase in numbers since we started posting, and it's like there's no surprise because you start looking at the dates from when we started posting and when we started doing this to
Yeah,
when we started and when engagement started to get high,
yeah,
and then those dates from like what's coming into the ATS. If you apply from a link you see on LinkedIn or like a personal one, those numbers have also like, or if you have to be manually added, that number has really increased. And there's only one factor that would make me think that. But
yeah.
you look at the data, there's that number of applicants in this period of time, and what was happening in that period of time, content going out and stories being told about specific things event side. So we started looking at
You've
that,
got
and
kind of like a date of when you started, and then you saw the curve. I
mm,
mean, I know you don't want to share numbers, but you've got a rough percentage of how much it increased from when you were posting
I think above 40% for sure.
that have organically applied to the company.
Mm-hmm. No force, and it's not even us. I'm not even posting jobs. You know,
Oh, wow. So they're just seeing,
I never post jobs unless you'll see if I'm struggling with a job because I posted it. If I'm struggling to fill something, I've posted it. But
Note, note taken.
yeah, recruiters out there. No, please
Yes.
don't. um, but essentially, what will happen is I'll just be like, most of my comments, check out the link to our jobs in the comments below, and then I'll comment again. I'll be the first person to comment in the comments, though. But it will do well, and people will use that link to go and search our jobs, and we've got such a variety of like people within our network. It works.
Yeah. So you've able, like I say, you've been able to find the moment from when you started these initiatives, seen the direct correlation as to, so that you're not tracking a piece of marketing. You're not saying, okay, this post had this many engagements over this period of time. We're not going to nitty gritty that. We're just kind of seeing
Yeah.
how are the applicants coming through. And then do you track, I guess, people who are coming through? Are we asking them, how did you find us? Are you asking, were they referred? Is that okay?
Yeah. So when they come in and when they apply, there's a question on there that said, "How did you find us?" And I saw Sean's post on LinkedIn, which I absolutely love it. If I hear that,
Yeah, it's proper ego stroker. I like it. I
It's
like
so
it.
good. Like the endorphins just going meow, meow. Yeah, it's a
Value
nice.
added.
Yeah, yes. That's going on my performance review, and it's a great way to. It's a big confidence boost now, and yeah, it's a great way to find out how people apply. So I saw some posts on LinkedIn. I saw some stuff on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, and then you kind of engage like, okay, a lot of this stuff's coming from LinkedIn. So naturally, I'm going to invest more time into LinkedIn, and as we're getting
Yeah.
a big bulk of our applicants from.
No, I love that, and I think it just showcases exactly what we've been talking about for the last 40 odd minutes. That if you invest in the time to do it, the ROI is the applicants coming through and showcasing the source they're coming from. If they'd said, "Oh, I found you on a YouTube video or a webinar or a conference," then it gets a little bit muddledy. But if it's consistently saying, "I'm seeing this content on LinkedIn," then it's easy to backtrack and work out where it's from. Consistent is the key word in that last point, because
Absolutely.
I think a lot of us have been, been full victim of this, where you start the month, the year, whatever, thinking, I'm gonna do it. This is the year. I'm gonna be a LinkedIn influencer or Dribble influencer or Zing influencer, whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
And you have all the intentions. And again, I know, speaking to my team, that I'm pretty hot on it. Like, I have a flow. I know what I'm doing. I imagine obviously you're in that process now, but I know a lot of people do sit there and struggle with the consistency side. So how did you kind of get into that process yourself? How did you kind of make it to a point now where it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday? And then how are you consistently making, the content behind the scenes to get there? I know you mentioned Sunday, so maybe that was already answered.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, like the whole reason I did it is I was looking before I joined BenchSci. The biggest people I saw that were doing well, attracting people, getting a lot of engagement on LinkedIn were those who were just posting. So I made myself a promise. I was like, when I start there, because it's a startup, I want to be able to add value. And I want to add value in a way that I'm not having to ask people for stuff. Like, I don't want to have to ask for a budget. I don't want to have to ask for this. I'll do this off my own back. And, I'll start getting the ball rolling. I'll start going, I hated it. Just to be totally clear, I started off by trying to video myself by giving tips and stuff. If you go back through my content, you see them; they're horrendous. Like, but there's a lot in there that I can, refer back to. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to keep going and keep going, and I make sure I promise myself that I'm going to do it. And I'd even try and like post or schedule like stuff for like weeks in advance, so I knew it was going out, and I had the time then to focus on it. And yeah, I forgot what I was saying then.
How did you get through the process of hating it?
Yeah, so it just became second nature when I started seeing the rewards from it. Like people at work
Yeah.
would start saying, "Hey, really like your stuff on LinkedIn," and it gave me a lot of visibility internally. Like people would be like, "Hey, love your stuff on LinkedIn. You're doing a great job." It's given us a lot of stuff. Like it's given us a lot of give us a great like reputation. People are seeing our stuff. People are seeing what we do. It's great. And I was like, okay, that's cool. That's nice. And then naturally the more candidates started applying. I was like, okay, this is good. And it would even get to the point where I'd had like a monthly review or something, and my manager was like, "Yeah, that's great. I really love the stuff you're doing. It's a great and it adds value. And
Yeah.
it costs absolutely nothing. And if you can add value by costing the business absolutely nothing, dude, yeah, it's great. It gives you so much visibility from people like, oh, Sean's doing a great job doing this. I mean, I'm hyping myself up here, but
Yeah, I was going to say proper hype man. But no,
yeah,
like I said, I think it's worth, so it's allowed to be, because I think coming back to the reason, you approached me because this is a topic that you were really passionate about, and I was so keen to get you on it because it led so nicely on with what we had before. And I think this conversation is now, really well rounded. The topic of employer branding. Yeah, the avenues will go down in the future, but listening to Andreas and how we should do it, and getting the structure in place and getting yourself ready, and then listen to you that you've done it. You've been in the trenches, you've seen the results. Then I'm hoping that people listening to this will sit back and go, okay, I need to get through that first couple of months where it's just a little bit awkward. I hate it for a little bit, and we've all been there. You look at yourself in the video like, oh, I sound awful.
yeah.
But
Everyone hates to sound their own
you,
voice.
yeah, yeah. But you see the reward and you get there, and then that's, the value add is, and it links back to what we as TAs should be doing, in my opinion. Business partners. It's a term that's being put around way more now, which I'm so pleased about, because that's what we are. We're business partners, and if you see yourself anything less, then you need to change that mentality. You deserve a seat with the decision makers in the company, because you're flying the flag of people coming in. That's our job.
For sure, absolutely. I think one thing to just add on top of that as well, like when people are posting and when they start, and when people are dreading it like a little bit, like, oh, I don't want to video myself. I feel like an idiot or whatever. Like that's how I felt. And then I would get really self-conscious about like no one was liking it. Like I would message some of my mates and be like, oh, come on guys, help me out here. Like, give me some likes on this. And I'll be like, why am I doing that? So like, I
Yeah.
really don't need to focus on likes and comments. They'll come. They will come. Try and just look at impressions. What impressions are at the bottom left of your content? Are they increasing? What content's doing well? What impressions? Where am I getting the most impressions? Likes and comments and stuff. They're great for like if you want a little endorphin rise, go for a run. If you want that. But like if you want to like start attracting more candidates better, and you want to start getting more visibility internally, and creating a good employer brand externally and internally, then by all means take that first step. And all you've got to do is literally, I don't even start just by introducing yourself to your network.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that, and it's like people will appreciate that you've put the human element into it as well.
I think as well, come back to that first couple of posts. If it makes it easier, just think not many people are going to see it anyway. It's going to be a flicker on the internet for a brief period of time, unless somebody specifically goes back through Sean's posts and find those first videos, which I probably will now end up doing.
Yeah, good, thanks. That's really made me feel really good.
Always, it's all cool. So I'm here for. Other than that, it's going to pass. And if you sit there, an hour about it, just do it. What's the worst that could happen? That's the way I look at it. A good statistic on videos, talking about impressions, is the watch time. Because if you've got like 15 likes, brilliant, endorphins hit. But if the watch time on average is 20 seconds, but it's a 5-minute video, the majority of it were people who are just doing it because they're in your network. They're not one's actually looking at the content, and the watch time is super important. I see that with the podcasts and the YouTube videos that we have, where the dips are, and that's getting better. It's getting longer, but that's the interesting statistic, especially like I said, specifically for videos.
Well, yeah, people's it's another statistic for you. Statistic on statistic is people's attention span drops after 7 seconds. So if you're not engaging people properly in the first 7 seconds, by having like something punchy in like your videos, and on top of that as well, most people will watch a video and I do this, and please tell me if you do this and make me feel better. Like, I will watch a video if it's got subtitles, but I won't turn the sound on, I won't watch it properly. But if it hasn't got subtitles, I'll scroll past it. And on LinkedIn.
So I only watch Netflix with subtitles. I cannot watch TV without subtitles now. And if I go to the cinema, I get frustrated because obviously I can listen to it. It's not a problem, but I just love the fact that I can read it. And I tell you what, the issue was, it was Game of Thrones. Because there was an episode where I just could not understand what was happening on the screen. I couldn't see it. It was one of the very last ones couldn't see it. And I was like, well, I have to watch the subtitles to see, to understand what's happening.
I know that. Funny enough, I've actually and this is a bit well off topic, I've actually just finished the last season of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, so I think it's the last battle, where it's like everything is completely, it's the nighttime battle where everything's like completely dark and I can't see a thing. And I was like, well, I need to see who's stabbing who with the subtitles on. Hopefully Spotify and Apple let me say the word stabbing. I just realised that. Yeah, we'll work it out.
Yeah.
We'll we'll wrap it up on that, but hopefully this has been engaging because we recorded for 49 minutes. And we'll find out if the first 7 seconds were enough for people. But Sean, it was a genuine pleasure. There is a lot to unpack, and I'm personally looking forward to get back to the team and present back to them and say, look, this is how we can support. So really appreciate you taking the time for sharing your knowledge with us, and absolute best of luck to you and to the team. Obviously, we'll link to your LinkedIn in the description of this so people can come find you, check out your content, and get a little bit more of an idea of what it looks like in practice.
Brilliant. And look, thank you so much for having me on here. Absolute pleasure. I know this is the podcast is gonna do very well with some of the guests you've already had. I'm obviously biased, but no,
I
it's been
appreciate
great.
that.
And thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bye bye.